Hey, welcome everyone to yet another interesting and informative Geoparcy Friday forum. I am Pearl Mystery, your host for today evening, mother of three and working as a counselor since the last 7 years with the Geoparcy program. Before I invite today's distinguished speaker, let me take this opportunity to share the details of the third phase of the Geoparcy program. I am sure most of you have either heard about Geoparcy or read about it or attended a few of our Friday forums. So I won't go too much into detail, but yes, for all the newcomers, I will just take 5 minutes and share what is Geoparcy. Now, all of us know Parsi community has been declining over the decades from 1,14,000 to currently just a population of 57,000 Parsis residing in India. So there was a 7-year research that went into finding out the causes that why when in India there's a population explosion, just this community is declining at such a rapid rate. So this scheme was initiated by the Ministry of Minority Affairs, Government of India, and it works towards arresting this decline and helping the community numbers to go up. There were different reasons that research came up with about why the decline is happening, but the top three reasons were infertility due to late age of marriage. Most Parsis prefer to be independent, buy their own home, and then get married and start a family. By that time, they're already about 30, 35, and infertility issues are due to lifestyle and late age of marriage. It's a major concern where people who want children also cannot conceive. Of course, there is voluntary childlessness also, and the one child norm that has been followed by Parsis is ages. The other is, of course, high standard of living and high cost of educating children. So we prefer कि Baba have one and give that child the best. And there is high dependency ratio to basically because we have so many elders who are dependent. Most of us are only children, husband and wife, so they have two sets of parents who could be dependent on them. And this also deters couples from going in and having more than one child. Sometimes even one child they hesitate to take the decision. So, among all these issues that we faced at the grassroots level, working with the community, the government came up with different schemes to help us face each issue. In the medical component, 10 lakh rupees are given for fertility treatment. Depending on the income level, the bills are reimbursed. Only original bills are accepted and can be reimbursed them within 3 to 4 months. Also, the other couples who don't face infertility issues still don't go in for a second or third child because delivery and pregnancy costs sometimes are really very high. So, this in the third phase from October 21, people who don't have fertility issues can also apply to geoparcy if they have gone in for a second or third pregnancy. Or four, of course. We'll be happier if it's the fourth, fifth pregnancy also. But the second and third pregnancies, up to 1,80,000 is reimbursed to couples. The maximum income level is 30 lakhs. Above 30 lakhs, if there are annual income of the couple, they cannot be eligible to apply to geoparcy. Along with that, if somebody's had twins or somebody's had a third child, financial support is also given to those couples up to amount of 8,000 per child per month. Also, if they have one child and within a year they are planning to go in for a second child, but the medical expenses, the babysitting expenses may be a deterrent, then 8,000 is given for a period of 1 year to encourage the couples to go in for their second child. Also, if they are looking after elderly dependents either at home or in another house or another city also, couples whose incomes for both childcare and elderly, their income needs to be less than 15 lakhs to be eligible for this support. Of course, with all this assistance that we have given, I would like to share the good news that more than 352 babies have been added to the Parsi community since 2013. It may seem like a drop, but I think in the ocean, every drop counts. And there's a long journey ahead for us, of course, and I'm sure we will be successful in arresting the decline. For more information, if I go in, then the main crux of the topic will, get postponed. I don't want to delay that. So for more details about how to apply, who is eligible to apply, please visit our website, geoparcy.org. We also have a very, very active Facebook and Instagram pages. You could follow us there too. Along with all this that we do, we also are working on matrimony because that is the basis. We need to get more Parsis married. So we have Zoom matrimony meets, earlier offline matrimony meets also, and we have a few in the pipeline plans for working on the matrimony also for Parsi youth. Also, the government of India has given us a task to collect the data of Parsis residing in India. It's a huge task, and we will need your cooperation. And the next sessions, we will be, sharing more information about the work that we'll be doing to collect the database. It's a comprehensive database we are working on for Parsis residing only in India. So now, I won't take further time, and I would like to introduce today's distinguished speaker. He's Mr. Farzad Irani. He's from Pune. He's a self-taught artist in wood art. Of course, by education, he is master's in petroleum technology, married since the last 24 years with two wonderful boys. So looking forward to hear from him, his journey from being an employee, pursuing his passion, and now being full-time into this amazing wood art profession. So welcome, Farzad. Looking forward to a great Friday forum.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So good evening, everyone. My name is Farzad Irani, and thank you to GeoParsi and Parzor for inviting me to talk a bit on my passion, which is wood art. So without further ado, let me start. A brief introduction about myself. I was born in 1971 to beautiful parents, Roshan and Noshir. And 1979, I was introduced to the Zoroastrianism community, had my Naujot there. My sister was also born during that year. And since we are in the topic of wood, I was first introduced to the skill of woodworking, right, in my 5th standard craft class in Bishop School, Pune, in 1982. And since then, I've been doing my woodworking. In 1985, I lost my best friend, my dad. And after that, my mother and my family provided the support and care and looked after my interests. In 1982, basically, my serious woodworking started. I passed out. I did my master's in petroleum technology in 94, started working in the oil industry in 1995. And again, then I upgraded my woodworking skills and I purchased my first scroll saw. I'll be discussing a bit more on what is a fret saw and a scroll saw later on. I'll show you a few videos on that. And then I met my beautiful wife, Binafsha, in 97, and we tied the knot in 98. And my eldest son, Arman, was born in 2000, and younger one, Rehan, was born in 2005. In 2016, due to the oil field downturn, basically I decided to quit the oil industry and just follow my passion, which is wood art creation, full time, right? It's a full-time hobby. I just create wood art day in and day out. And since the past 5 years, I've been doing it on a very regular basis. So before I jump into my woodworking skills, I would like to quickly touch upon the topic of how the Zoroastrian community has influenced wood art in India. So as we all know, the Zoroastrians migrated to India, and they are regularly migrating to India. But initially when they migrated, they brought in a lot of the ancient Iranian woodworking skills to India, and they combined it with the Indian wood carving skills, took the influence from Chinese motifs and Portuguese inspired carvings to create beautiful wood art, right? So here is an example of a beautiful partition, also called as a sunburst or a Surajmukhi partition, beautifully carved And of course, there was another artwork called as the Sareli, which is similar to the Iranian artwork called as a khatam, which is nothing but you take the strips of different colored wood and you stick them or join them together by means of gluing them, and then you just slice across and create this beautiful geometric patterns, and you use those patterns to create frames as seen in this picture on the bottom left. Is a beautiful box with a metal carved Zoroastrian theme picture in the middle, and it's adorned with this beautiful Sadeli art on outside, right? And not to also miss about the Petit family. Petit have been very influential in introduction of woodworking in India, and they are well known for their woodworking, wood art creations, especially using the Zoroastrian themes in their woodworking skills. And here we see a beautiful casket. So it's a carved casket with the Zoroastrian theme on it. These caskets are commonly called as a Petis. Petis is basically a casket, and they are very prized possession even till today. So that is a quick introduction on how the Zoroastrians influenced wood art in India. So today's talk about my passion will be what inspires me, what drives me, how do I conceptualize, and how do I do my designing. Few videos. It's a very informal presentation. If you want, you can ask questions in between. You can stop me anytime you want. I'll show you a few videos on the techniques which I use to create my artwork, and then I'll end with the question answer. We can end with the questions and answers. So when did it all start for me? So like I mentioned earlier in my introduction slide, in the year 1982, in Bishop School, Pune, that's where I did my education. In my 5th grade class session, I was first introduced to the fret saw. Fret saw is nothing but a handheld saw, right, with a very thin blade on the end, and used to cut wood. And my first project was a table tennis racket made from a plywood piece. And over the years, I continued my practice, and off and on I was working. And then one fine day after 10 years, in the year 1992, my auntie wanted to clean her cupboard, and she asked me for my help. And while cleaning, we found this very old clock with the frame completely broken, and it was eaten by termites. It was all brittle, and she said, take it. So that's where I always wanted to create something new. So something just popped in my mind. I went ahead, bought some plywood, made some drawings, cut with my fret saw, and my first art, along with the support of my mother and my sister, right? They were the primary support in the beginning of my wood art creation. And I created my first frame, first art form, right? That was 1992. So over the years, there have been a lot of people who have driven me. Not to like I would like to mention a few people, including my eldest cousin Kaizad, who's an architect. And during my childhood days, I used to observe him creating these beautiful models, and that's where the interest arose in me, right? And not to forget my mama, as seen in this picture. He's 86 years old, and till today he creates anything. Means he just creates, he just keeps himself busy, and he has been a real inspiration for me over the years. And of course, in 1999, my wife and I, we visited Iran, and this beautiful carvings seen in the Persepolis in Shiraz. This is what really uh, lit a flame in me, right? And I just use the themes from the Persepolis in my wood art creation. And then we visited Shiraz, Isfahan, and there observing this beautiful craft of creating artwork in metal, right? Using the Zoroastrian themes. So that's another inspiration for me as well. And that drives me as well. So a lot of my artwork revolves around the Persepolis, architecture, and Zoroastrian themes. And of course, day in and day out, when we visit the Agyaris, we see this beautiful artwork in the Agyaris or the fire temples. And these are also inspired art from the Persepolis and the ancient Iranian architecture. And not to forget to mention the Victorian art. So every time I pass the VT station in Bombay, I observe this beautiful sculptures there, and they really keep me going. I'd also visited Egypt. That also is a driving force. And in India, which is very rich in artwork. And the one which I would like to mention is the Dilwara temples. So they have this beautiful sculptures and rock carvings. So on the left is the Dilwara temple sculptures, and on the right is one of my artworks inspired from these sculptures, right? So I don't only do Zoroastrian themes, but I do everything possible. So how do I design my work, right? So something just design ideas pop in my mind, and I just take my pen and pencil and I just start sketching. Or I just create collages, and like seen in the bottom left-hand side, a collection of different pictures in different forms, create sketches, right? Now, once the sketches are created, I can go ahead and just take a photocopy of it and stick it on the wood and start working, right? But I'm a perfectionist, so I like to import the sketches into a software called as Corel. I work on Corel Draw, for people who know what Corel Draw is. And on the Corel Draw, I convert the sketches into vector formats. Vector format is a line format which is recognized by for cutting on laser machines or a CNC machine. So these can then be printed out, stuck on a wood, and then we start the cutting process. Or these vectors can be sent directly to the laser machine where it can be cut out or engraved. So how do I create? I'll just brush up on a few of the techniques. So I've spoken a lot on fret saw, right? So what is a fret saw? So fret saw, like seen in this video, right? You take the design, you stick it on a piece of wood, right? And then you just saw it. Now, it's a very slow process. It requires a lot of practice. You have to follow the lines. It requires a lot of patience to achieve the accuracy for the cut. And you must have seen this, noticed on the streets where the people make keychains from the brass sheets, right? The process is similar to that. Next is a scroll saw. The scroll saw is fret working, but using a machine. It's like a sewing machine, basically electrically driven, and the saw goes up and down. You just guide your piece through the saw, let it cut your piece, right? So all these pieces are then connected. And then, so the cutting is the first stage of the process, right? Then there are a lot of stages which I'll go through in my coming videos. So jumping back into the presentation, the next cutting technique that I utilize is laser cutting. So I've got a 100-watt laser. So this doesn't use any blades. It uses a very thin, high beam laser beam, which is very hot. The laser beam just slices through the wood like butter. The thickness of the wood that I use is around 4 mm. Sometimes I go up to 8 mm thickness. It does require some knowledge of the software, which is easy to learn. It's not very complicated. And the cuts are very fast and accurate as compared to the fret saw and the scroll working. So I'll show you a quick video on what a laser does. So as seen in this video, right, you can see this laser is cutting through the plywood sheet. Along with cutting, it also simultaneously engraves. Engraves is basically, it just etches the top surface of the wood. It burns it slightly based on the pattern you need to create any pattern you want, right? So here is an example of one of the wings of a furrower, and just etches through it. So once the laser cutting is done, I would like to quickly show you what are the other stages that go into creating one of my arts, right? So here is a furrower which I've designed on my software based on my designs. There are two shades of wood used. One is a white lighter shade and one is a darker shade. These are all natural wood colors. I don't paint my wood. I like to use the wood as it is in its natural form, right? So I'll show you a quick video on what are the steps in creating that furrower. So this is the furrower that I'll be demonstrating on how it's created. It's of my recent pieces made in two colors. So as this earlier, right? Once the pieces are cut on the laser machine, you have to. So what I do is I don't make my furrows flat. I like to give them some sort of a 3D elevated effect. In wood carving, as in comparison with wood carving, right? I don't do wood carving. In wood carving, you take a block of wood and you remove the pieces to get that elevated effect. Whereas in my art form, I cut the pieces and assemble them in an arrangement to give them an elevated effect, right? So in order for this, right? So what I do is I sand each of these pieces at an angle on my belt sander, right? So as seen here, you can see there is a slight slope to it. So picture on the left, you see that flat effect, and on the picture on the right, you see that elevated effect, right? So that's what gives the effect. And then I go and assemble and just do some quick fits, few iterations here and there, go and sand a bit. And once I'm happy with the effect that I want to achieve, I do it for the entire piece, also for the body section. So while we are doing the laser cutting, right, what happens is that because of the high temperature of the laser beam, it leaves some sort of a sooty residue behind, which causes this browning effect, right? So this needs to be thoroughly cleaned up before we go and do anything else. So on a fine sandpaper, I just rub it a few times and try to remove that debris. Don't press too hard or you remove the design itself. And see, it's nice and smooth. So you see a comparison of the clean and the charred little brownie section below, right? So I do that again for the entire piece. So this is the difference between a fret saw and a scroll saw. When you're doing work with a fret saw or a scroll saw, you're not burning the wood, right? So you don't have these issues of cleaning of the chart. But there are some other things that you need to do, because when you're cutting with a blade, it leaves this little furly marks which needs to be sanded off. So there are advantages, disadvantages. So once everything is cleaned, the next step is the gluing process, right? So I use this very high, strong glue. In India, I also use the Fevicol regularly. You take the glue, apply it in all grooves, right? And using a soft brush, you just spread it evenly across. And then you just hold the pieces together for say 5 to 10 minutes and just leave it to dry for a couple of hours. And it's as hard as the wood itself. The joints are not going to break. So it's done for the entire wing section. So once everything is dry, so what we notice here is because of that slant, the way in which we are cutting the wood, it leaves these grooves and these indentations behind, right? So I don't like my pieces to go out like this. So what I do, I have to create a putty to fill up these gaps. So I make my own putty. So like I mentioned earlier, during the sanding process, there's a lot of sawdust gathered. So the sawdust, I collect them, put glue in mix it with glue, right? And create a sort of a dough. The consistency of the dough has to be smooth enough so that it can be applied and it can be put through these grooves, right? So, and using a soft instrument, I just go and spread it like a peanut butter, basically. So this is done for the entire piece and let it dry for a day or two. And once it's dry, it hardens like a rock, right? It's as hard as a rock. The wood will break, but the joints won't come apart. So, and then I just go and sand it smooth and prepare it for the next stage, right? So that's smooth sanded. So on the laser, I also create a backer board. This backer piece is in the shape of the furrow design, which or any other design I want to make. I always create a nice thick backer board. And then I quickly assemble the piece and check for the alignments. Everything is fitting properly, looks nice, right? And the next step is the assembly, that's the gluing up. So again, using the glue, I apply the glue evenly and make sure all the nooks and crannies are filled with glue. And quickly put it on the board, and just before I clamp it, I make sure everything is aligned and everything in sync with each other. None of the pieces are out of alignment, and then I clamp it tight. So I do that for the end piece, let it dry for 24 hours. You see the amount of use here. That's also comes with practice. You need to be very careful while clamping. So as seen here, right, I use these small pieces of scrap wood or if I clamp directly onto the piece, it may damage the piece, right? Because of the pressure the clamp gives, it may leave some indentation. That's why I'll always put the scrap pieces. So that's the piece that is stuck up. Next step is the finishing. Finishing is done with the fine grit sandpaper, and it has to reach all the nooks and crannies of the piece. So I have this different sanding blocks enable me to sand it. So that takes around 3 to 4 hours of sanding the piece. It's a meditative process. Clean the piece thoroughly, remove all the debris, and prepare for the final finishing stage. So in India, we have this very good product called as Touchwood. It's a varnish. It's oil-based finish. Penetrates the wood and it gives very good strength and support to the wood and protects it from the elements. This varnish has to be thinned with a thinner, and this sprayer, basically I mix it thoroughly. I apply typically 4 coats of varnish, and each coat is allowed to dry for 24 hours, and then I do a fine sanding again. So it's a approximately 4-day process, this finishing, right? And once it's complete and dried and ready, the furrower is now ready. You see that beautiful glossy finish. So this is a quick introduction. It requires a lot of practice to achieve that finish. So over the years from 1992 up to present, these are a few of my works which I have done. I wouldn't like to go into each of them because there are almost 1,000 pieces here. And I've tried all different skills over the years. I've tried stained glass, I've tried wood turning. I've also done some restoration work. I love to restore antiques and bring them back to life. And some collaboration projects also have been done with other upcoming artists, right? And I'm always there to help upcoming artists as well as experienced artists, and we can work together, and I'm always there to help and support. So woodworking is a hobby for me. It brings peace, feeling of fulfillment and happiness. So I basically, that's what I do all the time, right? I just sit and create and practice. Every day I learn a new skill. And for artists as well who want to learn the skill, they need to strive for perfection and keep practicing. And of course, always try new techniques and see which techniques suits you best. If you need any guidance or any help, don't hesitate to contact me. And always remember to keep a balance between hobby and generation of income. And do not give up, right? Fretworking and scroll sawing is such an art where you sit for, if you stand and look at someone for a few minutes, you might lose interest. But if you have that passion, right, you just keep doing it, not give up. For any help or any support, please don't hesitate to contact me. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and here's my email address. I'm always there to help out, and you can have discussions or any other queries you have. And with that, I would like to thank Farzad and GeoParsi for giving me this opportunity again to demonstrate my work and to share my experiences. And with that, I thank you everyone for giving me your time. And with that, I'm open for any questions you may have.
Thank you so much, Farzad. It was an amazing presentation. And yes, there are quite a few questions that are coming, and we'll take them. Before we start with the questions, Farzad, could you just highlight from the PPT a few of the work? The one you showed so many pictures, just a few, if you could highlight, it will be really nice.
Actually, I've got a lot of pieces, right?
We
So
can see so many
yes.
just behind you also. There's
Oh yeah, yeah.
amazing work. And I'm sure the
So in
viewers
fact,
would
yeah,
love
yeah.
to see a
So
few
here
before we
are a
start.
few of my,
Amazing.
yes. And during my early years, right, I had also attempted to create. So you see this old beds, right, which we have with the slabs of wood. So I used a few of those slabs and
Love.
this partition sort of thing in the Zoroastrian theme.
Beautiful.
And this is made on a scroll, so it's very thick wood. It's almost an inch thick. This takes a lot of time and patience to cut, right? And I'm surrounded by wood. Try to create jewelry boxes. So this is a box I created for my wife.
Amazing. Lucky
Yeah,
wife.
yeah. And it's like actually thanks to her that she has tolerated me for 24 years and supporting me and allowing me to practice this art, right?
Great.
A lot of
Yeah.
dust and all this byproducts.
Noise.
Yeah, noise, dust. So she's always there to support me.
So we should thank her too. Thank you
Yes, yes.
so much, Aksha, yes, for
Yeah,
supporting your husband and let him follow his passion.
yeah.
Yes, Farzad.
And
We'll go ahead.
of course, my mother is a guiding block for me as well. So when my dad passed away, she worked and she looked after us and brought us up, right? So I would like to thank my mom also, my
Great,
sister.
great. Your mom is also artistic like you. It runs in the family.
It's not my mom, actually, it's my mom's brother, my mama. He's, like I said, right? I showed his picture. He's 82.
Right, right.
He's a real inspiration for me. Probably my mom also has some hidden talent. Probably it's not come
Okay.
out.
Great, great. So, a lot of questions coming in. We'll just start with a few. Yeah, the
Sure.
first question is we are seeing a lot of Zoroastrian influence on your work, but has any other influence like the Indian temple art or the especially South Indian temples and the artwork there, has any influence on your work?
Yes, of course. Indian architecture and art is a daily influence for me, especially like I mentioned, the Dilwara temples, the architecture.
Yeah,
I have this book of which I purchased when I visited Dilwara, and I use this as a guidance, right, and to inspire me to create some designs, right? So
right.
designs have a lot of these um, curly effects, and so I use these as guides to create my designs.
Excellent,
Yeah,
excellent. As you mentioned, no formal training, right? This
no
is
formal training. All
completely, that is
yes, yes,
amazing, amazing.
self-taught. Yeah.
Great, great. Other question was, do you need protection for using the laser beam? Do you use any kind of protection? Because it seems a little dangerous. I mean,
Yeah, yeah. Of course, the laser machine has a cover on top with a sheet from which you can see. But a few times, what's happened with me from my experiences is sometimes I get too enthusiastic and I want to see things close, right? So there is a laser beam which passes across and then cuts down. So if you're not careful and if you just put your hand in between the beam, you may just get zapped. So a
okay.
few times actually I've got burnt on my finger, and after those lessons I've learned to put my hand in when the laser is working. So you have to take a lot of care.
Wish you luck on
Yeah, yeah.
that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. The next question was, tell us how you balanced your career and hobby. Family support you've already mentioned, but you were already in the petroleum, you were working, and then after you stopped your hobby, or did you continue practicing? How did you balance?
No, my hobby work has always been there. Means so like I mentioned from this slide, right from 92, it was I started in the oil industry in 1995. So for 3 years I was in college and I was doing the work. In fact, when I joined the oil industry, right? So you see the top 1994 to 2016. These are all the pieces which I made during my work in the industry. Oil, my company and my oil industry, I would like to thank my company for allowing me to see places in the world and purchase machines, right, which were not available in India. So all my scroll saws and all my advanced machine tools I've purchased during my visits, trips to US. So they're all mostly US made machines.
Great,
And
great. So I think the takeaway from listening to your experiences is no excuses. I mean, there are so many people who say while we are working, we have no time to follow our passion. But I
no,
guess from you, we can take that away that if you really want, we can always create the time.
of course, of course, of
Great,
course.
great.
Like every
Ne-
day I come from office and you're stressed out and come and spend a couple of hours on the machine and make a few pieces and everything is like peace and calm. Right? So it's like a meditative process.
Right, right.
Not only woodworking, you can do anything else, right? You may have sewing, cooking, so any hobby or any talent you have, right? Use it.
The next question coming up from the laser machine is besides the burn marks, does laser cutting give a smoother or finer finish on the sides as compared to using the saws?
Of course, like the laser beam, right? It's point 0.1 of an mm thick, and it's very accurate and precise, right? You can go over the same point multiple times, and it'll always go over that same point, right? Whereas if you're using your hand to cut a design or a scroll saw, there is always that human error, right? So you may move a slight bit here, slight bit there. So of course, it's more laser beam is more accurate.
Okay,
Pros and cons with the laser beam, like I mentioned, you have this residue, the charry, sooty residue, which needs to be thoroughly cleaned, right? And it doesn't require a lot of sanding as compared to cutting with a fret saw or scroll saw. Yeah,
right.
there are
Great.
pros and cons with both the forms of cutting.
Okay, the next request is come is could you again just share your first work, the clock that you made for the aunt? There was a request if you could just show that again.
Yeah, definitely. So this clock actually, in 1992, I did not have a lot of material to work on, right? So as we see in this, the frame, so it's a half-inch a thick plywood cut with a fret saw, handle saw. It's very difficult for if 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 a fret saw artist knows what I'm talking about. It's quite difficult. So it took me around 3 months to make this and see a lot of inspiration from the Polish architecture. You have Homata, Hokta, Hovrashta, which I strongly, the three tenets of Zoroastrianism: good thoughts, good words, good deeds. And most of my work, I tried to incorporate that. So that was the first one. Then you have these two tiny parohars. So this concept just came out. I wanted to include everything. When
Great,
I
great.
make my work, my wife tells my sometimes my wife tells me, stop, enough, don't add too many things.
Great.
Yeah.
The next question coming up is would you advise the viewers to follow their passion or take traditional career route of job or profession before they jump into the passion? There's some youth who, say, Kini, I want to only be a writer or I just want to follow my heart. But the daily bread, butter, daily expenses also they have to, manage the responsibility. So, what would your advice be for our young viewers or for all of us? Should we follow our heart or first take the traditional route for income generation?
So how I have been guided, right? So when I was in my ninth, when my dad passed away in my ninth standard, I just wanted to quit schooling. Not like schooling. I just wanted to work, do the woodworking. But I was guided by my elders, my uncle and my auntie and my mother, right? They told me education is very important. So they pushed me, and I'm very thankful to them. So I went and did my master's, and we were not that well to do at that time. So I had to join the oil industry because you need some sort of a purpose to support your hobby work, right? So that's very important to keep in mind. So education, if you have a good job, try to create a good, strong base, and don't lose your hobby, right? Keep in touch with your hobby as well. And once you're confident that everything is okay, then just go ahead full time. That's what I did. I just quit the oil industry. There was too much. I just want, because life is short, right? You just go ahead and do what you want at the end of the day.
Great. And I
And
think again
I'm
we
there for any advice to any youngsters who want to do that, right? So you can contact me anytime.
great, great. I think again we should thank your family for supporting you for taking a decision to quit and take
Yes.
up your passion as your career. Great. Now,
Thank you.
taking up from your question, do you have plans for the future for coaching or training youth who would be interested, Parsi or otherwise? But do you have any plans for starting a coaching institute or something?
Well, I don't have any sort of a plan to start a big institute or anything, but I'm always open. There have been a few people who have contacted me. Come over, and for a few days we've gone through my art. I've showed them a few techniques here and there, even on WhatsApp or any phone calls. I'm always there to teach, right, and learn as well. I won't say that I'm a master craftsman in my work, right? So I'm learning every day, but definitely I'm open to teaching. My advice to any schools: I was first introduced to this art of fret saw was in 1992 in my school, the Bishop School, Pune. But I'm not aware of any other schools where they do this specific work. Right. So my advice to any people from the educational institution is to introduce some sort of a craft session, this curriculum, right? So that helps to at least introduce the basic forms to the students.
So, viewers, anybody from the education field, please do contact Farzad and take this up. It is really a very good idea.
Yeah.
Taking on from there, where is your workshop in case people would like to see actual, in the physical form, visit you and see your work? Could you just share details about where your workshop is or you keep it private?
My workshop is working from home.
Okay.
So
Good.
I've got a flat, and on it's a flat to the terrace. It's my own private terrace.
Lovely.
So I just climb the steps, and on the terrace I put a roof, and I put all my machines there, and there is a small here, and that's my workshop.
Great.
And anyone is free to come over.
Great, great. We'll contact you. I think you also have a YouTube channel, right, where people could
Yes,
actually see more videos and subscribe.
correct. Yes, I have a YouTube channel where I've put a few of my pieces there.
Great,
Yeah, yeah.
great. Okay, some more questions we'll take up. One was, do you make puzzles also, puzzle boxes? Have you ever ventured into that?
Puzzle boxes, no. Actually, I've not ventured in a few flat puzzles. So I've made a few dinosaur skeletons where you just connect to create a dinosaur model.
Right.
Uh, so those are some trial and errors that I've done earlier in my. My sons are actually very much interested in.
Wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. So this is a sort of a box which I attempted. This is that Illusionist. You must have seen the Illusionist movie where they have that pendant which converts into a heart. So this is a box which I attempted to make.
Very nice.
Close to that, yeah.
Lovely.
It's sort of a puzzle box, yeah.
Okay. One more. Message from Mr. Navroz Berabram. The collage on the wall shows post 2016 an apparent change in the design or detailing. Is that when you started 3D? Any elaboration on that? Would like some more info on that. Post 2016 was when you started 3D?
Uh, I'm not actually full 3D. It's I would say a pseudo 3D, right? 3D would be something like this elephant, where you have a flat surface and the relief, and you have a full structure, right? So most of my work is it's like flat, right, with a slight relief seen in that video, right? So this is the furrower with a slight elevated effect. It gives a pseudo sort of a 3D effect. I'm not into full 3D work. The closest I've come to 3D is this particular piece, right? But maybe in the future, I will definitely go into some 3D work as well. Yeah, creating some stuff.
Coming to future, Mr. Rani, any plans for exhibition where people could view as well as purchase? There are questions on where people could contact you for buying also and also to have a look. Any exhibitions planned in the future?
Uh, well, I've just started my work, right? So I wouldn't say that I'm still in the exhibition sort of a category. I don't put myself in the exhibition category. Maybe, yes, definitely it's in the pipeline. Maybe in the future, near future, I might have an exhibition. Or, but to have an exhibition, I need to have a theme and I need to create a lot of pieces. And definitely it's in the pipeline. But the largest exhibition in today's world, right, is the social media.
Yes.
I post my work on Facebook, Instagram, and there are a lot of responses from there, right? The main purpose is to showcase the work, and there have been a few interests where people have shown interest in purchasing the stuff, and I've created for them, right? So
Yes, we have quite a few of your customers who've been praising your work on the chat also. You made 6
yeah,
by
yeah, of
3
course.
and all huge
I
one.
thank I thank all of them also because that's how I get my inspiration, right? So no people support, then you tend to lose interest.
Sure.
I
Coming
like
to
to.
the next question from there, have there been any moments where you lost your motivation or didn't have any ideas for what you wanted to make next? If so, how did you regain the motivation? A very nice question
Yeah,
for
it's a nice question. Very nice. There have been always been ups and downs. I wouldn't say life is a smooth journey, right? So whenever there was a lot of stress and work related stress, and when I used to work on the oil rigs, right, in the middle of the sea, 3 months at a time. So you cannot carry this piece, your thread saw and all that there and do the work. So there have been breaks in my work, and whenever there is a break, it takes a bit time to recover from that break, right? So, but when I used to work on the rigs and I used to not create stuff, my mind was always working, and I used to sit and at least I have paper and pen, right? So I used to sit and draw, design, uh, go browse through the internet, see, look for some ideas here and there, right? So there has never been any time where I have completely lost touch. Maybe maximum like 3 months, 4 months, yeah. And design ideas in today's day and age, right? Because we have access to the computers, so you just go on Google and say I want to create a flower or something. I just go and click flower, and you have like millions of flowers with all designs, and so you get your inspiration from those places and use those ideas to create your designs. And whenever you use a design, my advice to people is always acknowledge, right, the source from which I always acknowledge my pieces. If I'm using someone else's idea is mention the names there.
Great.
It's inspired from this place, inspired from this place. That's very important, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Iranian, also the viewers would like to know which are your favorite creations. Any particular pieces you would like to, show the viewers which are your favorite.
Well, I've got a lot of favorite creations actually. I cannot pick and choose
Maybe,
one.
yeah, maybe
Yeah.
just, yeah, I'm sure you would like to see a few.
Well, the first piece which I showed, the clock, that was the most.
Okay,
That's where I started my journey, and I cannot pick and choose. They're all my babies, right? I cannot
true.
pick and choose between my babies.
Yes.
Yeah,
And we are glad you have hum do, hamare do, two boys. All
yeah.
Parsis should take your example and move ahead
Of
and
course, of
make
course.
your
Yeah, yeah.
Parsis name shine.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes. And Mr. Dadi Padamji is writing, have you thought of making lampshades like ones we see in metal, but with designs or even calligraphy, which then gets projected on the walls when the lampshades are lit? Wow, an amazing
Yeah, yeah.
concept. Yeah.
It's a very good idea, actually. Yeah, I've not actually made. Well, in my early years, I had made a sort of a lampshade, and it was very flimsy. That was during my fretwork days, early 90s. Uh, but it did not last that long. But it's a good idea. I'll take that.
Yes, Mr. Dadi Padamji has given you a good idea
Thank
now. The
you.
next
Thank you
time
so much.
we will see some of those creations,
Yes,
I'm
yes,
sure.
of course. Yeah.
Yes, and we'll take up the last question that's come up is could you share your YouTube link on the chat, please?
My
Or
youth.
at least the like, what do they type? How do they search
Just go
on
and
YouTube?
search FI Wood Art.
FI Wood Art. Could
FI
we just put
Farzad
that up?
Irani. Yeah.
Just 1 minute, yeah. Everyone. F capital, I capital, right?
FI Wood Art. Farzad Irani Wood Art.
Wood art.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. But I'm not a very ardent user of YouTube. I've posted a few videos. It takes time to create videos and right. So I like to focus more on my time in creation than creating videos. But I have created a few videos. Yeah.
Great. Great. Yes, dear viewers, any other questions or comments you would like to share with Farzad the Irani, please go ahead and do that. I'm sure I've covered all the questions, but in case anybody has anything else they would like to talk about, please go ahead. Yeah, everybody's saying inspiring. Some of them are your customers. They are really very happy with your work.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, the young generation, like recently, like Mrs. Nawaz's son, he's a cyclist and he was creating this prototype helmets. So I helped him in cutting on the laser. So I'm always there to help the young budding artists, help in creation, giving ideas.
Great, great.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Irani, any last message you would like to give our viewers? Anything that you would like to leave them with? Any thought or any experience you would like to share?
So for the young budding artists, do not stop your education. Get educated as much as possible. Uh, get a job. Practice your hobby along with your job. As soon as you have a strong base and you want to go into your hobby, follow your heart and mind and just do it full time. Don't worry about anything. For the people who want to get out of the job and follow the art or any sort of a hobby, go ahead and do it. Life is short. Enjoy it. That's all I can say.
Great, great. One more question's come up, Mr. Irani. Are you based in Pune?
I'm based in Pune full time.
Well done. Great, great.
Pune Vanori.
Fine. Okay, then. Thank you, Mr. Farzad Irani. It was an amazing presentation, really an eye opener to a different art form many of us weren't even aware of. You truly
Yes.
are a gifted artist, and
Thank you.
GeoParcy wishes you all the best for your future.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Paul. Thank
And
you.
all our dear viewers, stay safe, mask up. See you for the next Friday forum. We also have a tombola coming up for the Dadar Parsi residents. So anybody logged in from Dadar, please join that group too. And as I had mentioned earlier, I'd just like to end again. All our efforts are paying off. We have 353 babies added to the Parsi community. We are very excited about that. Lot of new benefits for the youth, for the young couples to take support and go ahead and have more babies. And we are also working on getting the data of Parsis collected. It will be a comprehensive database that we are working on. It's a Government of India directive. So the Google form has been put up on our website. We need your cooperation. Please go ahead and fill it. It is very official. So don't worry about the safety of, whether it is from Geoparsi or something. It's very much from our side. Go ahead and fill it. It will help us to actually get the number of Parsis residing in India so we can get more better schemes. We can work on getting better benefits for the community. Thank you, one and all. See you for our next Friday forum coming up soon. God bless. Thank you, Farzad. Have a great evening. And thanks to your lovely wife, Pinapsha, also for all her support during our dry runs. God
Thank you. Thank you. Bye. God bless.
bless. Bye bye.
Bye.